Well, good evening, folks. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. It's so good to be back with you. Pastor Robert Johnson, St. Mark United Methodist Church in Wichita, Kansas, back with you for another conversation on our weekly broadcast, our weekly video podcast that we call Ignite, which is a faith-based weekly conversation to ignite and cultivate human potential and faith. And so we're so glad to be back with you for another week. St. Mark, as you know, we reopen our doors to up to 300 people. Thank you all who came out on Sunday. We had an amazing, a wonderful time in worship. So excited about our music ministry, new music ministry led by Marty and Kim Bowie. Kim Bowie, by the way, just FYI, I got to say this about her. She loves to sing. It is so fun to be around somebody who leads worship, who's not leading worship just to lead worship or to do something religious or to get money, make money. She loves to sing. And so it is so fun worshiping with her right now. Kim, I hope you're watching right now. All of you who are watching right now, if you're watching on my profile, go over to the St. Mark Facebook page or YouTube channel so you can tune in with us and so we can see your comments, because we do want to hear from you. We want you to post your comments so we can see them. We will not see them if you're on my profile. If you're on my profile, we won't see them. You got to go to the St. Mark Facebook page and St. Mark YouTube channel, post your comments so we can see them. We don't have as much time tonight, so we want to get quickly into our conversation. So let me bring on my amazing co-hosts, the brilliant and the phenomenal Pastor Yolanda Oliver and Kai Green. What's up, good folks? Kai, you're muted.
I know. I was over there. I was just chilling out for a minute because I was like, do I want to get shot at first? I thought you were going to announce Pastor Yolanda, but you were taking so long, and my discernment went off and went, this is foolishness. And then I got drug into it, as I always do. So, Pastor Yo, it's very good to see you. I apologize for Robert. I'm sorry.
Hey, I'm not messing with it. You all are safe tonight. I'm not messing with anybody tonight because we don't have as much time. So y'all should be happy. So we're not doing any of that foolishness and none of that silliness that we normally do. So Yolanda, you don't have to worry about us doing this constantly throughout the broadcast.
Reporting live for St. Mark News, Pastor Yolanda Oliver's out in the field. You got a new message coming in. I couldn't help myself. Now I'm done.
You know, I keep my resignation letter on deck. You know, it's already signed. I'm just Lord help. Pray my strength. Pray my.
Yolanda, that's a great picture. It's a great picture. We're just celebrating that picture. But folks, thank you all. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We have our guest tonight is someone who's very dear to my heart. I met him over 20 years ago, I believe. It was around 1997. And he was a teacher at the Money School. I'm going to have him tell you about the Money School. Some of you all have heard me talk about the Money School because I've talked about it and talked about the amazing experience that Giselle and Kayla, my daughters, had in that school and what it did to their consciousness. So we'll talk, but I'll let Marlon. He was a teacher there, knew the family very well. That started the school, was best friends with the lady who ran the school, was best friends with her son. So he's going to give you a deeper plunge into the Money School. And I think it's important for us to talk about that because of what's going on with CRT and the discussion about how much of Black history should be taught in our schools and what that could possibly do if we don't end up in the right place with that, what that could do to the consciousness of Black kids, Native American kids, Asian American kids who are in public schools. But we'll come back to that. But I am so excited about having him on. So I've known him for 20 years, at least 20 years, worked very closely together. But I'm going to read you his bio only because I want you to hear what this young man is doing. So I would send a note out to St. Mark's leaders and said, don't miss this guy. You don't want to miss him. We try to bring on people who are doing extraordinary things, and we did not fail in our guest tonight. So listen to this. Marlon Hall is an artist and anthropologist whose life intention is to cultivate human potential while unearthing beauty from brokenness. He's also a wordsmith. As an art-making storyteller, he was recently named a Fulbright Specialist by the U.S. Department of Education and Cultural Affairs, was the visual anthropologist and social media archivist for the Greenwood Art Project. So that the Greenwood Art Project in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're going to talk about Tulsa tonight. Can't wait. And a 2021 Tulsa Artist Fellow. Marlon engages in choreography of visual anthropology, photography, filmmaking, and art installations as a community well and wheel of healing. Art as a well from which folks can inwardly draw inspiration, and a wheel that moves them forward. Sometimes the social, political, and physical violence some communities experience creates a trauma that results in cultural amnesia. This kind of amnesia can make it hard for these communities to remember who they are, what they can contribute, and why those contributions are important. Today, his work is rooted in cultural amnesia therapy in Tulsa, where he is tilling the soil with local creatives and community advocates to nourish the harvest of human possibility growing from the ashes of the 1921 race massacre, a growth that reveals the resilient nature of the human spirit that is fireproof and impenetrable, and an impenetrable legacy of Black Wall Street. Because memory informs imagination, this is an effort to remember who we were as Black Wall Street and imagine who we can become. I love it. And I'm so proud of him. Welcome to Ignite, Marlon Hall.
What's up, man? Thank you so much for the invitation, man. Thank you, Pastor Johnson, for giving me my first art job. I was basically a creative director for your sermons, man.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Storyteller, filmmaker for your and Pastor Caldwell, and Pastor Kibe's sermons. Pastor Kibe living.
Oh man, don't it?
Tense. Yeah,
man, Pastor Kibe, Pastor. We just got to pause right there, Marlon, and just remember what an amazing soul, and I miss her so much.
Me too, man. Me too. Yeah.
Miss her so much. But yeah, you're right. As a matter of fact, some of our leaders are watching. Marlon and I at Windsor, which was at that time the largest church in Methodism, had a SPRC in place, Pastor Yolanda, and I was looking for a new administrative assistant. They were trying to box us into this old paradigm of what that looks like. And Marlon and I created this entirely new job description and show that to them. This is what ministry looks like in a new era. And they bought it, Marlon. They did it. Right?
Yeah, they bought it for 2 years. They bought it for 2 years, didn't they? Then they sold it. No, but they bought it. They bought it.
They bought it. Let's go with they bought it.
Bless the Lord. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me.
Bless his name. There you go.
Yeah.
So Marlon, we came on before the show, before we started our broadcast. We were a little late coming together. I want to introduce you. This is Kai Green. Kai works in corporate America, works at a company in Austin, Texas. I met him in College Station. He is now in seminary, just a brilliant young adult who's doing some amazing things. And so he and I built a fast friendship. So even though he's in Austin, he helps to co-host the show. And then the young lady who's with us, this is Pastor Yolanda Oliver, one of our pastors here at St. Mark, who helps to co-host. And we're so glad to have you on, man. And so we're going to try to maximize this great conversation with this great human being with the in an hour. So Marlon, let's start here. Tell the Marlon Hall story the way you want to tell it.
Oh my
Tell
God.
who you are.
Yeah, man, you know, I've always had a unique curiosity for human behavior. When I was in middle school, me and my homeboys would go to the mall, and Pastor, the primary goal was to pull numbers. That's urban English vernacular for get as many phone numbers from girls as possible. And I would always find myself in the mall food courts, not seeking girls' phone numbers, but imagining people's cultural heritage, giving people conversations, giving them ethnic stories, giving them tone and intonation. Really, people became human puppets for me in mall food courts. And so it was later that I discovered anthropology, which was the discipline basically of being professionally nosy, of reverse engineering every what, when, where, and how that drives the people back to their why. And so, in many ways, for me, it was like spiritual and emotional archaeological work that I got a chance to do when I first started off in school. And then, after I graduated from the illustrious Fisk University and also Vanderbilt University, I was called into the ministry at my church. In fact, I was at St. John's United Methodist Church with my pastor, who at the time was preaching a sermon for a revival. And Pastor Rudy Rasmus got up and he said, it was the B selection among all the songs the choir was singing. And he got up and he said, somebody has been called to ministry. You thought that God was leading you in one direction with your gifts and your skill set. You've come back home and he's called you home to use them for his glory. Someone here has been called to ministry. B selection went past. C selection went past. D selection. Now, you know, when the choir gets to the D selection, everybody mad. And I was looking around like, man, will this fool please hurry up and come down so we can eat dinner tonight? And lo and behold, cool tears began to run down my cheek. And I wiped them with my fingertips only to recognize that it was me. And I received my call to ministry on that day in St. John's through a men's ministry. And I've been pursuing that call ever since. Now, what I do may evolve, but why I do it is always rooted in a desire to cultivate human flourishing in the name of Jesus for the sake of God's glory.
You're muted, Robert.
Dang.
You're muted, Robert.
So where in the journey did you do you connect with the Imani School?
Yeah, just leave me out. Just keep me unmuted. I promise I'll be as quiet as a mouse. I'll be so quiet you can hear a rat peeing on a cotton ball. I swear. Promise.
So share with everybody when you connected with the Imani School and what the Imani School, the concept, what happened there, the phenomenal work that's going on.
Man, you know, the Imani School was really this prismatic approach to the development of the human that is uniquely Black. And from the prism of cultural heritage to the prism of high academic achievement, to the prism of a deep awareness of self, to the prism of a lofty understanding of God's presence in our everyday lives. The Imani School really nurtured the fullest expression of what it meant to be human for children who were Black. Primarily, the Imani School is the largest private Black school in the nation. No school larger than it. Founded by a woman who believed that the elasticity of the developing brain was far more dynamic than we have been taught, and that children can consume and also process more information in a unique way than we thought before. And so her research in many ways catalyzed the design of the school that has brought about so much transformation in so many people's lives, like your children, you know, who were stars then. P.S. Stars, you know. Some people have a high level of competency, like they're really good at what they do, but they have low character, like they're jerks, you know. But then some people have a low level of competency, but they're super duper nice to kind of overcompensate.
Right.
Your children are the choreography of the two. they are that dance. You know, they hold character and competency with such grace, like ballerinas.
I think so. I appreciate you saying that.
That's real. Hey
as
man,
a-
how's Linda doing, man?
Man, Linda's doing. She's watching you right now.
Oh, what's up, Linda? What's going on?
She's watching you right now. So, Marlon, you got. One of the things that you and I did. You were doing the money school piece. We were working together at Windsor, and we actually got into this piece where we read Howard Gardner out of Howard University.
Yeah.
And you remember that? The 7 kinds of intelligences.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Yolanda, Kai, Marlon took that. So Marlon and I were so excited. We were trying to figure, man, this is great stuff. This guy's name is Howard Gardner. He talks about the 7 kinds of intelligences, 7 ways of learning. Some people are kinesthetic learners. Some people are auditory learners. Some people, and basically his theory was you can't force all kids to be linear left brain learners. That's unfair to children, that we miss the talent and gift of so many kids because we do that. So Marlon and I were taking a deep dive into that, and Marlon actually wrote a children's curriculum based upon that concept.
Yeah, yeah. And it was a concept I learned at the Imani School through the tutelage of Patricia Hogan Williams. Let me say her name.
Yes, say her name. Say her name.
That and Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence. Just really, Piaget, who's known to develop the primary model for gauging intellect, he developed the IQ test. And the IQ test believes that the closest distance between 2 points is a line. And that's a logical, mathematical, sequential order and process orientation. So the smarter you are, the more capable you are of reading a sentence and regurgitating the order and syntax of that sentence. But Gardner, we studied him, he came along and he was like, man, forget that. He was like, there are 7 highways, and there's a new intelligence he developed called the natural intelligence.
Right.
He said there are 8 highways that information can travel to reach destination of understanding. And most teachers teach the way they learn. And if you teach the way you learn, you teach to maybe 2 or 3 students in the class who learn the way you do. But if you shoot a floodlight of information using all of the intelligences, the musical intelligence, the kinesthetic bodily movement intelligence, interpersonal, intrapersonal, these many intelligences that can be used to awaken a child's imagination, an adult's imagination for what information can do in their lives.
So I got it. And then I want Kai to jump in. Kai, for the next question, Kai, if you're prepared for that. But I want to throw this question in. This was not on our map. So Marlon, say a word to parents who may be listening, parents, grandparents who may be listening right now. Kids are struggling in school, and they know that their kids don't fit the box.
That's right.
And here's why I think you can speak to that, Marlon. Number one is that you taught in a school that did it differently. But then, dude, you've lived a life where you said, okay, I know who I am, but the way that everybody expects me to live that out, I'm going to trust God, trust my being, and carve out my own unique path.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. Encourage parents and grandparents who have kids, man, and they are worried about it.
May I tell a micro story?
Yes. Yes.
I graduated from Fisk University and Vanderbilt University cum laude with departmental honors. I was a National Pew Scholar, and I spoke at my graduation. And when I got home with my degree, the first place I went was not to a bar to hang out with friends. First place I went was to make an appointment with my high school counselor, who during the time told me that I was probably better suited for a job that would align with what she called my skill set. She thought that maybe I could be an upholsterer like my dad, who's an amazing artist himself, or maybe be some kind of crafts person, because I just did not have what it took to be a college student. And I went back. I scheduled an appointment. I was so nice. I scheduled an appointment to meet with her, and I slid my, she didn't remember me, but I slid my certification, my National Pew Scholar certification. I slid my departmental honors. I slid a copy of my transcript. I was just sliding, you know what I'm talking about? Sliding. And I laid it all out. And I know y'all United Methodists. If you was Episcopal, I'd tell you what I said. But I basically said, never allow what you don't see to determine what people can be.
Amen. Yes.
And
yes.
I am dyslexic and dysgraphic. Dyslexic, which means that I get words out of order. Dysgraphic, which means that I get symbols and numbers out of order too. And so the reason I didn't excel in school was because I wasn't learning the way that they were teaching. So my first year of school, I taught myself how to learn using the multiple intelligences, And so I made songs about the content. I went on walks in nature. I recorded me reading my notes to myself and listened to them in my sleep, and ultimately taught myself to learn in a way that no one would teach me. So to any parent who has this deep knowing that their child knows more than others say they don't, listen to that knowing and see it as a gnawing that's calling you to find somewhere else for your child to be educated, or to be creative in how you do the research to take the same information they're getting at school and re-articulate it in a way that they can someday excel,
Yes.
Absolutely amazing.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely.
Oh, I wish I could tell you what I taught. Oh, I wish I could tell y'all what I taught.
Kevin Hart.
It's probably a little worse.
Like Richard Pryor. Meets Red Fox. Meets Dolomite. Just joking.
So Marlon, now just do the same thing for people who know that they don't fit. So we talked about students, we talked about kids, but just talk now to individuals. There's this burning in them, and all the things that people are trying to fit them into, none of those things make them come alive.
Yeah.
But they know what makes them come alive. Talk about what it takes to finally what does it take to finally reject all of that and live into who you feel God is calling you?
Yeah. No one fits. We were all born to stand out. We're all misfits. You know what I mean? Which is why we all have a place to lead from, because we don't necessarily fit into the homogeny of all human culture. We have our own window pane through which we see life, the same life. And so that's number one. Number two, you ever heard of an ecotone?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Kai, you ever heard of an ecotone? Pastor Yolanda? Ecotone, eco from the Latin ecology, like living. Tone from the Latin tonos. It's the living tension between two life forces or two ecosystems. You ever been swimming in a pond and you run down the grass, you're like, and then you get to that messy, muddy middle space where the reeds are, and you go, ew, because you got mud in your toes, and then you go, psh, yay, in the water. Well, that ew, it's the ecotone. It's an ecosystem that lives in between two ecosystems. And even though it's messy, and even though it's muddy, and even though it's murky, there are four elements to the ecotone that make it more resonantly powerful for me than its neighboring homogeneous ecosystems. Number one, the ecotone brings connections that would not have been made had the ecotone not existed. The messy, muddy middle space brings together the grass and the water, so it makes connections. Number two, the ecotone is biodiverse. The organisms that live in the ecotone can live in the grass or the water, right? So it's biodiversity. Number three, the ecotone, the soil is fertile than a mug. That's rural Northeast Houston vernacular for a whole lot. It's really, really fertile. And then lastly, here's the thing that's really important, is that the ecotone is a system that lets you know before there is a problem what the problem is in the whole ecosystem. So trash shows up first in the messy, muddy middle space before you see it in the water or you see it in the grass. So why do I say all that? Man, most of our purposes are lived in the messy, muddy middle spaces. And we try to be dichotomous because we feel that it's most efficient, that it is the most direct way to get to our purpose.
Yes, sir. Sir.
But in between vocations, you feel like you're called to law, but you don't want to be a lawyer, that's probably where your purpose is. And it's messier. It gets your toes and toenails dirty, but it's fertile. And also you can make connections for others that could not be made any other way by cross-pollinating vocations, which is what I was able to do. I was blessed by God to be able to do, was to integrate different vocations for the sake of one vocare. You know, the root, you know, the Latin word for vocation comes from vocare, which means calling, you know? And so I was able to cross-pollinate in the ecotone of vocation, a new way of understanding how to make a living and a life at the same time.
At the same time. Marlon, you and I have talked about this once before, long ago. You brought it to my attention, but then I actually found a video. Thelonious Monk playing the piano in a bar with his band to a song he had written, and he gets to when he hands the solo off, so he's soloing, he hands it off, and he gets up and dances to his own music.
I love Thelonious Monk.
Yes.
I love him. I was so sad that movie, that Mos Def was gonna be him. That thing didn't go.
Oh, that would have been so amazing, man.
Boy.
Yes. So one more thing I want to get in, and then Kai, I want to switch to get into the Tulsa piece. So Marlon, so let me now I'm speaking to my folks. So Marlon, we asked Marlon at Windsor to start a young adult ministry, and what happened there, Marlon, was, I call it like we had our own Harlem Renaissance.
It was live
because oh my goodness, there was and so there are young adults who are watching. Some of our young adults are watching, Marlon. Tell them about, just tell a little bit of the awakening story and some of the amazing people who were there, and the blend of artistry that was there.
Right, you know, and I think it was per your advice, but one day Pastor Kirby John Caldwell, who was the pastor of Windsor Village United Methodist Church where we worked, called me before he got on the plane and said, "Hey man, we're about to launch this new worship service on a new campus in a community that is by and large Generation X." That's just how long ago it was. And he said, you know,
look at Kai laughing, Marlon. See,
I know, it's crazy. I know, Kai. I know. It's antiquated, ain't it?
I haven't always been 55, Kai. Come on, bro. Go ahead, Marlon.
Antiquated. And so he said, "Hey, do you have any ideas?" Well, he didn't know this, but 6 months prior to that, I turned my irritation around why many of my friends were right outside the bubble of their fullest expression. And I knew that a relationship with the most ancient and future spirit known to man, the Holy Spirit, could catalyze their futures. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, I'm telling you, man, I have friends who are entrepreneurs and visionaries. I was like, man, I'm telling you, if you tap into this infinite spirit, this eternal spirit, man, you'll be able to heal the past, root yourself in the present, and be drawn into the future. And they was like, man, that's BS. So I turned my irritation into an intrigue, and I did an anthropological study in my neighborhood within a 25-block radius for 6 months. And I basically, the catalyst of my study was a question, and that is, what was the dissonance between the modern church and its people, its everyday people? And I came up with 3 different problems and 4 responses to those problems. One of the problems was nomenclature, just language. The language was not connecting to the everyday person. Another was that the church was not cultivating spaces where people could see their purpose as their ministry. You know, the ministries of finance and the ministries of offering and the ministries of singing and praise dancing was flourishing, but the ministry of seeing your everyday vocation, for lawyers to see the courtroom as their pulpit, was missing. So people were like, man, what is it really going to do for me in terms of my purpose? And so I sent him my anthropological study. I went to barbershops, I went to nail shops, I went to weave factories. I just traveled all over my neighborhood asking people questions about the disconnect. And I sent my anthropological study so long ago, he was like fascinating before we got on the plane. And so I faxed a 16-page study with the dilemmas and some possible solutions. One of the solutions was a culturally relevant worship experience that spoke in the nomenclature of people with all the multiple intelligence present.
Marlon, you're breaking up. Your Wi-Fi,
your
connection has something, like, check it for me.
Okay. Okay, what about now?
The voice is back perfectly.
Oh wow, look at that. Are both together now?
Keep talking.
Can you see and hear me?
We can see you, but it's like your every time you move, it freezes a little.
What about now?
All right, that's better. That was better. Yeah.
For real?
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Oh, maybe I should find another spot.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear and see me now?
Yes.
You can? Okay, good. So I gave him my study and he liked it. And he was like, well, can we start next week? And I was like, Pastor, no, we can't start next week. So, man, we got together. Chris Dave, who at the time was Erykah Badu's drummer, became our musical director.
Hey, Marlon, don't go the humble route. Chris Dave is considered the greatest drummer in the world right now.
Well, he's Questlove's favorite drummer.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a worship service that spoke in the language of the people in multiply intelligent ways. So the thesis of the sermon was the thesis of the song. Originally arranged and written music every week, Pastor. Every week we had Brian Courtney Wilson writing. We had Soul Fruit writing, Derek Leon, who live in the present tense too. Like, it was just the music, the filmmaking. That's where I, began to explore the fullest expression of my filmmaking. It was just, and it grew. It grew from 75 people to over 750 in 52 weeks. And 92% of the folks that were connected to the community were what at the time were called de-churched or unchurched. And then that thing just grew. It just grew and grew and grew, I'm not sure how much more you want me to say about that.
No,
I may want to interrupt now.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, you that's basically it. It was just amazing, and it was so creative, and it was an amazing array of talent, and you were helping people. Every person mattered.
Every person mattered.
It was like every person began to feel like that they had this artistic thing that they could do, and that you began to enlarge our concept of what art is, so that it's not just singing, that it wasn't just playing the drum, that there are multiple forms of human expression that are really artistic expressions.
That's right.
Really, and that was cultivated there. So it was just the overflow. It was like a Harlem Renaissance. It was like our own Harlem Renaissance.
It was so cool.
It was so cool. It's so cool.
It still is. It lives in the present tense. The church, the worship service turned into a church that turned into a movement that still exists. The pastor of the Awakenings movement, her name is Tia Norman, and she still holds worship, and in a unique way. Pastor, we were so focused on innovation out. Yeah. Her ministry is innovation in, this inward reflection through contemplative practices. And so it's still going, man. It's super dope.
Wow. Well, we had Diallo and
Danielle. Yep.
And yes, that's an amazing array of talent. So, Marlon, let's and we gotta move quickly. Kai, tell us about how you got to Tulsa and what's going on, and what have you discovered about the Tulsa story?
I'll say this. I just finished and you know what, Pastor? I'm not sure what your programming is like, but my editor is running a little behind, so okay. I'll have a little time.
Okay.
But my work began here, I guess, about 4 years ago. And let me know if my connection breaks up so I can change position. It began about 4 years ago when Rick Lowe, who's a MacArthur Fellow, one of the founders of Project Grow Houses, asked me to be an anthropological consultant with him for a project that the Bloomberg Philanthropies was going to fund, $1 million project given to the city of Tulsa to distribute among 28 artists or art groups to allow them to tell the story of the pain of the massacre, the promise of Black Wall Street, or the possibility of the future of Greenwood. And so he just asked me to be an ear for. To be honest with you, man, I really hadn't learned a lot about the Tulsa Race Massacre until then, until my job called for it. And when I did, though, man, as soon as my heels hit Black Wall Street, Greenwood, I felt that I had been baptized in an ancestral density, so dense that I felt like I was moving through the molasses of a meaning that I had never sensed in my body. I felt that I heard this deep ancestral call to connect to the relationship between community, culture, and commerce that was present there. So that's one thing. Period. New paragraph. It was not present in the bodies of the people who lived there. There was this lack of memory in the body. The bodies, and of course, I'm an anthropologist. I'm occupationally nosy. And the way that the shoulders were forward people's hips and the way that people's chins were drawn closer in proximity to their sternums denoted a lack of dignity in the body. And how could a person who is a descendant of one of the members of Black Wall Street lack dignity in their body? Well, it was amnesia. Like the trauma and the pain of the massacre and having been consistently told to forget about it or erase it, erased it not just from the memory of the history books, but from the memory of the body of the offspring of Black Wall Street. And so I made up my mind then that I was going to make my way back. And if my mission is to unearth beauty from brokenness, and I am Black, that I would allow my next place, my next residence of mission to be Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so I applied to be a Tulsa Artist Fellow and got that. I applied to be a Fulbright Specialist and got that, and began my work here in cultural amnesia therapy, creating mirrors with my photography, filmmaking, and my yoga teaching, my meditation teaching, mirrors through which people can see themselves as they are seen, and also windows through which, because of what they see through the lens of their history, can imagine more. Can I tell you a micro story? Yes? Miss Yolanda? Okay.
Absolutely.
Please do.
So beginning with Pastor Kibe and Daniel Kibe and Dan Bello, if you're interested in going to Nairobi at any point, please holler at Dan Bello. It is service and serenity at the same time. Anyway, Pastor Kibe introduced me to mission work, and she was taking folks to Nairobi. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really hype about proselytizing nor cutting and pasting my understanding of the call of Christ on top of anybody, because I'm an anthropologist and we listen first and then create second. And so I made it my mission to be a listener once I went to Nairobi. And so I was interviewing people, asking them about social imagination, what they imagined for the society where they were. And I had been doing this project for 7 years, taking artists, educators, and social engineers to Nairobi, 15 people at a time. And we had done it for about 8 years with Pastor Kibe and Daniel Kibe. And we thought we were a success doing this thing called social imagination that was rooted in Emmanuel Katonge's work, who at the time was a professor at Duke Theological Seminary, who talked about Christian social imagination. So I was like, I found this dude named Jimmy Oganga, who's a great curator, good friend now. And I pitched him on the project. Pastors, man, look, I walked up the steps to his loft. I met him there and I gave my pitch. He heard I was coming. I gave my pitch for social imagination, imagining through cross-pollination a world that we cannot imagine alone. And he lit this cigarette, and Pastor, he lit it and smoked it from what my big mama calls the rudder to the tutter. And then that nigga blew all that smoke. That nigga blew all that smoke in my face. And his only response was no. And right before I punched him in the throat, I asked him why not. And he said, holy hands, Pastor Yolanda, holy hands. And I said, he said, unfortunately, memory informs imagination. He said, a kid imagines a stick to be a horse only because the kid, remembers having seen a horse. If the kid had no memory of a horse, how can the kid imagine the stick can become one? He said the same stick the kid can imagine to be a baseball bat, but only because the kid remembers having seen a baseball bat. If there's no memory of a baseball bat, there's no imagination that a stick can become one. He said, unfortunately, I cannot help you with your imagination project because we've been educated toward Europe and away from Africa, and we have forgotten who we were. Wow. So it's hard for us to imagine who we can become. Wow. He said, instead, will you join our amnesia probe project? He said, and help us remember who we were. He said, and maybe in 10 years, we could work with you to imagine who we can become. And Pastor, I got to tell you, wow. It's been 10 years and dang, I'm getting emotional. It's been 10 years. Jimmy and I have been collaborators and friends ever since. And he and I are going to show at the Venice Biennale representing Kenya wow. in May of 20. The Venice Biennale is like, or some call it the Venice Biennial. It's like Miami Art Basel, but over 100 years old times 10. Wow. And we're going to fulfill the promise that we made to each other 10 years ago by catalyzing an exhibition, a site-specific installation with my dinner table where people from different cultural backgrounds who are all Black cross-pollinate their Blackness to grow something together we can't grow on our own. Wow. Yeah.
Amazing.
So memory is really essential to imagination, but sometimes the memory of our greatness is knocked right out of us due to the trauma of our pain.
Wow. I so much I want to jump into. I want to see if Kai or Yolanda want to jump in before I keep dominating the questions.
You got it, Doc.
So I'm wondering, Marlon, this concept of you can't when you have amnesia, when you don't remember, it's difficult to imagine who you can become in the future. Have you thought about that in the context of working with, I mean, you know this, Marlon, across our country, from little rural places to major urban centers, there are older, dying churches that do remember, but are challenged to imagine. So there's got to be something, although they say they remember, there's something that they are not remembering, because if they were remembering correctly, it would provoke the imagination. Have you done any? I know you were doing some stuff with Duke and
yeah, that was my work with Duke and Princeton. Yeah, that was my work. My work was to do amnesia therapy for the kingdom. Because there are some essential things. Can I tell you 3 things the church has forgotten that keeps it from imagining the future?
Yes.
The church has forgotten that it is safer to be risky and risky to be safe when it comes to the matter of living meaningfully. It is safer to be risky and risky to be safe to be a Christian. But we've adopted the philosophy of modern times, which teach us that the zenith of life is comfort. But here's the other thing that the church has forgotten. Comfort can be the enemy of new creation. And we covet comfort more than we feel called by God. And then for me, another thing the church has forgotten, which is something that Pastor Carlo used to always say, and that is that failure is the shit that fertilizes our future. His words, not mine.
Yeah.
And we are so afraid to fail without knowing that failure is a major ingredient in the compost that makes our transformation possible. We got to fail. We just need to learn how to fail faster. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Let's just fail super fast.
Fail super fast. That's what I get. Kai and Yolanda, y'all got to remember. You all remember we talked to Arthur Jones, who's pastor in Dallas, whose dad's a bishop, and that was one of the things he talked about. Because they've had this
failing quickly.
Arthur Jones is probably, my guess is that Arthur somewhere in his 30s, Yolanda late 30s. Kai, what do you all think? Maybe early 40s?
Yeah, late 40s.
So he's doing this phenomenal took this church that just has these phenomenal people in it, very wealthy, and they're growing, and they just had this amazing company. And so we asked him about what were some of the principles that he was, operating with, and he talked about that failure is necessary, and that he tells his people, let's fail and fail fast.
Let's just do it. Let's just get it over with.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
not rush it. Not rush. I don't
Right.
mean cultivate anxiety that promotes instability. By that I mean welcome it as a friend and not a foe. Failure is my friend. Sometimes it's rude, you know what I mean? But you got rude friends. They're still your friends.
Yeah. I believe one of the phrases that was uttered on this show was "fill with your whole heart."
Yes.
Fill with what?
Fill with your whole heart.
Fill with your whole. You might as well
put yourself into it.
You might as well. You might as well. May as well, as my big mom used to say. May as well.
By the way, how are your mom and dad? And by the way, my mom, I don't know if you remember my mom.
I do remember your mama.
Is watching tonight. And
she is? Hey, how are you? Oh, man, holla at your boy. Say something. That's beautiful, man.
Oh, yeah. So, Marlon, talk about just for a second, since we have a little more time, and you tell me, I'm gonna start the story, and you tell me if you think the story is worth finishing.
Okay.
If you say, "Nah, Pastor Day, let's do something else." One of them, and I don't know if you know this, but I've told this story. I've used this story in sermons, Bible studies, social media posts, and people love this story. But one of the most wonderful, inspiring stories I ever heard. You told a story about when you were little, and you wanted to take karate.
Oh my God. Crazy. Brother Jesse's Karate School, for those of you who grew up on the dirty north. Yeah, Brother Jesse's Karate School. Yeah.
And so the teacher, the instructor, thought at the time that Marlon was too small and didn't want him in the class.
Yep.
But Marlon's dad takes him down. So you pick it up from there.
Well, he thought that I was sparring to move from my white belt to my yellow belt. And so he put one dude on me. And Brother Jesse, he was the kind of dude, he believed in you. You know what I mean? He believed in you from somewhere. You just didn't always know where it was coming from. You know what I mean? And so I was sparring with one dude, and I was handling the dude. And then he put another dude on me. And then he put 3 dudes on me. And then he put 4 dudes on me, and finally called it. And for me, that began a story for me.
Yes.
That wove into the fabric of my personal narrative.
Exactly. Yes.
That
yes.
there is no how many that can stop my how much.
Wow. Yes. Yolanda, you got to say that.
I know how many.
Yes.
I don't care how many you come with. It won't keep me from caring how much I care about my yellow belt.
Wow.
I don't care. I don't care what it is. I'm not. Yeah. Bring your how many. I have my how much.
Oh my God, that's a great story. And what a great wording, closure to it, those words. Did you post that? Did you get them, Yolanda? There is no how many that can stop my how much. Yes.
How many times my heart has been broken will not stop how much I am open to love again. No matter how many jobs I've lost, cannot compare to how much I am committed to my life purpose. It's just, yeah. I think that sometimes, really, the truth is, Pastor, is that the loud minority of our failure keeps us from the silent majority of our success.
Yeah.
You may have failed 2 times, but it's so loud. You know what I'm saying? But you've succeeded 20, and it's so quiet, because your successes don't need to boast. Your failure does.
Wow. Kai, Yolanda, y'all want to join? I know, y'all we just want to sit here for a moment and just soak that in, right? In these conversations, Marlon, it's so interesting as anthropologists, we have these amazing conversations with people and they say some amazing things and we don't get to soak in them because we got to keep the conversation going, right? So you gotta try to get as much in.
It's all good, man. You don't have to rush, man. We just vibing.
Okay.
And you can
go ahead, Yolanda.
You're very authentic.
Ma'am.
You ooze authenticity. You can tell that you're not just regurgitating something, but that you really lived your experience.
Yeah. Authenticity is broken openness. Like they are first cousins. Pastor Yolanda, when I learned, so the Sanskrit word for heart is anahata, Anahata, anahata. And the Sanskrit word for heart is the same definition or meaning for impenetrable force. So the heart is an impenetrable force that cannot be broken. So what happens when the heart, quote unquote, breaks due to a breakup in a relationship or an expectation that's not met? What's happening is that you're not being broken because the heart is an impenetrable force. You're being broken open to a new version of who you are. And so what breaks when the heart breaks? The ego. And so the ego begins to break apart so that the light of Christ can shine through the cracks. And so I have just learned to make friends with my brokenness as access to broken openness. So what you name as authenticity has come from brokenness, made broken openness. AKA, I really don't give a damn anymore. What was the Johnny Ray Youngblood? Was that his name? We used to cuss. He said, used to, goddamn the pimps, goddamn the pimps, goddamn the pushers. Damn is in the Bible. There it is.
That's wrong.
Boy, it's good. Whatever.
We can't hear you.
Oh, it's good though. You see them hands? Them hands say it all.
Go ahead.
So one of the amazing things about the Tulsa story, Marlon. So I've heard people have said one of the accusations that some people make against Black people, they're lazy, they're not industrious, they're not creative, They just want, they want welfare and all. And I say, Black folks, I cannot nothing irritates me more than when I see, there's nothing wrong with a Black person being Republican. But don't be Republican because you believe lies about your own people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, have you not heard the Tulsa story that in 1906, O.W. Gurley goes to Tulsa?
Yeah.
And within 15 years, they built Black Wall Street.
15 years.
15 years, Marlon. 15 years, dude. No slave labor, by the way. They didn't get the benefit of free slave labor.
Nope.
15 years, dude.
Yep. The dollar turned over 6 times a day in one community. In fact, folklorically, there was a game that kids used to play, Pastor, during the summers. They would take $1 and write their name on it, spend it in the morning. About the end of the day, play a game as to whether or not they can get the $1 back with their name on it.
Wow.
Because the dollar was just circulating so many times over in the same community.
Wow. So, my friend Breakfast Club.
Charlemagne?
No, the guy, your good friend.
Marcus Davis.
Didn't he come to Tulsa to visit?
He did. Yeah.
Yes.
I was doing I've been doing anthropological consulting with TBK Holden for about 6 years now. Really, it began as a way to pave the way for their new restaurant culture. And most recently, Marcus is about to expand his brand as a communicator, and I asked him to come back to an ancient space of commerce, where commerce, culture, and community intersect, so that he can imagine a new future. And so, as a part of the anthropological consulting, I led him on a rite of passage here, he and his family, and it's been really beautiful.
Wow. And he's an amazing human being as well.
Oh man, he's so cool. He's just so cares. You know, he started a for-profit institution with a nonprofit heart.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
And there's some institutions that start nonprofits with for-profit souls.
Exactly.
That just reminds me of like Peter Oaks.
Man.
Yes.
What'd you say?
A guy, a billionaire that she and I had the opportunity to meet with. We're gonna do a project, and his story. He talked about moving going, and you'll remember this with Leadership Network. Remember Bob Buford talked about moving from success to significance.
Yeah.
This guy talks about how he moved from success to significance to surrender. And out of that he saw that he went bankrupt, had to start over, but he says this time I'm doing it differently. So he did for-profit with the heart. For-profit with a nonprofit heart.
That's beautiful.
Motif, yeah. And he's done amazing stuff.
That's so beautiful.
So Marlon, tell us about, and I want to talk more about what's going on, because Wichita is only like 2 hours from here. So we've got folks in our church who grew up in that community. I don't know if Rod is watching. Rod grew up in that community. He was the one. I didn't know that the Gap Band is named. They're from that community.
Yeah, Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. These intersecting streets. And you dropped the bomb on me. Was really an ethnomusicological expression of the trauma of the bombs that fell on Greenwood.
Wow.
Yep. Uncle Charlie.
Man. Wow.
So we don't have anything but to do it to make this tour happen.
Yeah, we gotta. Yeah. So, St. Mark, you folks are watching. You all need to go, and we need to go and do a tour. If you haven't been, I've been several times since I've been here. As a matter of fact, we come through Tulsa when Marlon, when we drive to Mississippi for the holidays. We don't get to stop every time, but we did several times before you got there. I have not been able to get there since you've been there, but it would be wonderful if St. Mark, if we went down and did a tour. And saw the work Marlon is doing. That would be absolutely amazing. Tell us, what have you learned from that venture and from that project that you would like to share with us?
2 things, man. Number one, my most recent, the exhibition before the one that's gonna launch on Friday. On Friday, Pastor, my next exhibition launching Friday. So hyped, been working so hard. I gotta twerk. Don't be mad. Before that one, I did an exhibition called A Garden, Not a Graveyard. Now, why? Because I actually live and my studio is on the site of the massacre, on the gravesite. And for a long time doing my work, I would have nightmares that I would wake up and my mattress was in a graveyard, and it was traumatic. And I was depressed and sad and growing older in my soul. You know what I mean? And so when I had an opportunity to do an exhibition at the Greenwood Gallery, shout out to the Greenwood Gallery queen who owns the gallery, is the only African-American woman in the state of Oklahoma who owns an art gallery. Shout out to Queen. She asked me to do an exhibition there. And she asked me to take some photos from an exhibition that she had seen somewhere else, but I couldn't rest doing that. I told her, I said, man, you know what? Would you give me an opportunity to cultivate a counter narrative incubator? I said, because I'm having to re-narrate where I am so that I can return to who I am. Tulsa is not a gravesite. And so if you come to Tulsa, don't just come with flowers, y'all. Tulsa is also a garden. Come with a basket. There is no place like Tulsa where you can put your finger on the pulse of human resiliency. You know what I mean? This is a place, and see, the thing about gardens is that this is what I've learned about Tulsa. What I've learned about Tulsa is what I knew about gardens, and that is that gardens have decomposed elements of life in them as well. Death is in the garden, but the garden has a universal way, a cosmic way of understanding that death is not the end, but a means to the end of this beautiful cycle of life, death, and renewal. Some call it life, death, and resurrection, right? And so what I've learned in Tulsa is that something may seem dead, and life may feel like a garden, but we can re-narrate where we are in our lives and instantly awaken and re-narrate who we are in life as well. And so people came through this exhibition and they brought the worst story they tell themselves about themselves as Tulsans, and they went through a 3-part installation. First installation allowed them to face this mirror that has been in my family for 2 generations, a mirror where after my divorce, my daughter and I gave each other affirmations in front of this mirror before we went to school because it was a tough time for us. So people went to that mirror to tell a better story to themselves about themselves in the present. Then they went to another part of the installation that was a mirror that was behind this door right here, as a matter of fact. This door has been in my family for 4 generations, and it consistently led to the restroom. And they went to that door that was installed into a wall, opened it, and before a mirror, told a better story to themselves about themselves as it concerns the future. Because, failure is the crap that fertilizes our future, so people process. And then the last one was this installation of this door, of this mirror. And that mirror has been in my family for 2 generations. And it was installed into this large-scale photography of a dude whose name is Bobby Eaton, who's the oldest griot in Tulsa. And people went to that door to tell a better story to themselves about themselves as it relates to the past. And then they went into this story incubator to re-narrate the story that they began with. So they started off with the title of the war story they tell themselves about themselves. And then in this incubator, they re-narrated. They developed a new title, a title that moved from a graveyard to a garden.
Wonderful.
But man, my new exhibition though, my new exhibition though is so live, right? Like I was, the 3rd best park in the nation, the Gathering Place, invited me to do a Black history exhibition, and I didn't want to do it, y'all. I was so sick of Tulsa history, and it was depressing me. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, you know what? For me, Black History Month is not just a moment; it's a portal. Time opens up, and the global consciousness of America and the world subsequently turns to face the history of Black achievement and excellence. And I thought to myself, in a city that has been processing the trauma and the pain of its history for about 56 weeks because of the 100-year mark of the massacre, why not, when the portal opens up, I want to look into the future, And so not to turn our backs on the past,
Right.
but to face the future faithfully by imagining a future that honors the past of Black history.
Yes.
And so it's called Dear Black Future because it's an inclusive exhibition written to the future with some archival photos and video installed into this 6,000 square foot space. Man, the largest photo is 14 feet long and 20 feet tall of Black children. And people come in, they hear the stories of these students at Burroughs Elementary, the first school to integrate in Tulsa. And they get to write a 4-word letter to the future of the Black community. And so I'm trying to get 121 letters.
So can we go back to how you expressed or defined Black history as a portal? Can you repeat that?
Yeah, well, any anthropologically speaking, any ritualistic tradition or practice that reflects on the past in the human brain catalyzes an imagination for how time can collapse. The moment I think about my past, I've just collapsed the present into the past. The moment I, in the present, think about the future, I've collapsed. So we're already collapsing time. You know what I mean? So since we, time collapsing, like not because I'm sick of the history of Tulsa. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful history. I am seduced by its future. I am lovingly, man, the future of this city is calling me by my name in a way that only it can call me. And so by this provocation, by this possession, I believe that when any community reflects on its past, it's not just responsible to have its back to the future and its face to the past. Because when you do that, y'all, you trip over things you wouldn't normally trip over. You know what I'm saying? Because your face is to the past and your butt is to the future. That's number one. Number two, if your face is to the past and your butt is to the future, sometimes you walk in like a butthole. And sometimes during Black History Month, we just be walking in the room like, what, did you say what? Black lives do matter. It's like, dude, we have nothing to prove. Our heritage speaks for itself. We have nothing to prove. What we have to provide is proof to our children that our history does not define us, but can awaken us to the possibility of the future. So yeah, it's a time portal. And for this, now maybe next year, I may turn my back on the future and just focus on the past. But for this year in Tulsa, we, through this exhibition, will have our heels to the past with the ancestral palms supporting us and their fingertips pushing us forward as we open up our eyes by at least 2 to 3 inches with more width to the possibility of the future of this community, one letter at a time. So if you know people in Tulsa, send them to the gathering place, the boathouse, for this exhibition. Y'all know they only gave you boys 17 days.
So Marlon, you got to talk about. So Kanye, by the way, Kanye West, who I am loving the journey he's taken. I'm not some static person that gets described in a magazine, and not somebody who's a figment of my imagination. The person he is, evolving person, how he's evolving and growing and exploring in his own way and at his own pace.
Me too, man.
And so when he said that I'm tired of talking about Black history, I want to talk about Black future. I get that. Like I think there's a deep truth to that. Yeah. And Kanye, some people say something like that, and it's shallow. They haven't thought about it, but I think Kanye is intellectually brilliant.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think
absolutely.
He's constantly plumbing the future. And so I really like that statement. Man, tell us about, I've been wanting to ask you this forever and a day. Tell us about the dinners and what happens with them.
Yeah. The dinners came out of pain and loss. After my divorce to a wonderful woman I share parental leadership with, her name is Regina Hall. After our divorce, the trauma of the divorce gave me amnesia, Pastor. And I forgot who I was, what I could contribute, and why those contributions were important. And so I invited 2 of my homeboys. One dude is a sculptor, Anthony Suber, and another dude who is a photographer, filmmaker, Brian Ellison, to my studio at the time. And I got this bottle of aged rum, and we started drinking. And I didn't want to tell them that I was depressed, but I knew I had to. But I let them know that they were going to help me build this table out of reclaimed wood from my big mama's house in Houma, Louisiana. And so we started building the table, and the levee broke as we were building the table. And we began to open up to each other in a way that we had not before. And I thought that I was the only one suffering, but we all were in one way or another. And so that table ended up, Pastor Yolanda, you talked about portals. That table, even though it is a horizontal surface, through my Salon Dinner Party series, it becomes a vertical surface. It moves from being a table to a doorway through which people can access their humanity. Why? Because I'll tell you how it started like this. Like the city of Houston commissioned me to do a anthropological film series that I called Folklore Films. They wanted to tell better stories to the city about the city, one folkloric person at a time. And I did 16 films. And when it came time for me to figure out what to do with this 10-foot table that me and my friends made, I said, you know what? I want to invite all of the subjects from my film series to meet, because they had never met each other, for a dinner. And I said, but the only rule is that they, even though do different things, they're a cognitively and culturally diverse group, they can't talk about what they do for a living. That was the only rule. They can only talk about who they were and why they were. And I'm telling you, 15 minutes into the first dinner, like you saw people's shoulders integrate.
Wait, Marlon, hold on. I need you to go back and say what you just said. Just say it one more time for
me. Man, Pastor, you know I don't know what I just said, man. You say it. What did I say?
That the only thing they couldn't talk about.
16 culturally and cognitively diverse people, which means that no one person does the same thing for a living. But the only rule is that you cannot talk about what you do for a living, only who you are and how. Which means that
talk about why you didn't want them to talk about what they do.
Because what they did for a living may have brought them to the table, but only who they were as a life kept them there.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, at the time I had been studying the Medici family, and the relationship between the Medici family's salon dinner parties and the Italian Renaissance. And so the Medici family, Mama Medici, in her big old bedroom or salon, aka salon, had this 10-foot table built, unbeknownst to me, 10-foot table built, and she would invite doctors to sit next to lawyers, and lawyers to sit next to teachers, and teachers to sit next to architects. And architects would learn things from trash men they couldn't learn from their architectural contemporaries, and trash men would learn things from barbers they couldn't learn from their contemporary. And so, and I'll say this too, that the salon dinner party began in Europe. It took root in Italy, but it was led by women. And I don't mean like women served. Women chose the topic of discussion, and they chose the guest list, right? Which for me is a sacred echo that I believe I strongly anthropologically believe that the future of leadership in America and the world will be matrilineal, the way that it has been in most human civilizations. But anyway, so historians connect the Italian Renaissance back to the cross-pollinating power of integrating vocations that Mama Medici had at her table. And at the time, I wanted to bring Renaissance to my city. And so why can't you talk about what you do for a living? Because sometimes the anxiety of presenting what we do can cloud our clarity of who we are. And we associate who we are with what we do. But according to studies, we're supposed to change what we do for a living every 7 years.
Wow.
So that we can have a better life.
Yes. Yes.
So the dinner parties saved my life. They were not an artistic practice because I thought it was a good idea. I was losing my mind in my loft that felt like a cave. And I had to turn my mourning into dancing some kind of way. And that table did it. That table is on exhibition now at a restaurant here in the city, where people are invited to hit a QR code and respond to some questions that provoke who they are for a life beyond what they do for a living. Wow. Super cool.
Oh my God.
And I'm doing a dinner party series with Hennessy. I may not be able to talk about Hennessy on this show, but damn, too late.
Go ahead.
A dinner party with Hennessy that travels all over the nation, cross-pollinating all different kinds of cultures and vocations to create Renaissance in the world. And I'm really excited about it.
You are, sir, exploring what it means to be human in such a deep and profound and creative way, and it's so inspiring.
Man, you're kind. I think I'm just silly. I'm just dumb. I'm foolish enough to believe.
Hey, well, thanks be to God.
Yeah, I'm foolish enough to believe that God is calling me. You know?
Man, thanks be to God. Thanks be to God. I sometimes feel sorry for church folks, us church folks, because church folks get so caught up in the trappings of religion that they miss that it's about becoming fully human. And so Yolanda knows I talk about that all the time. But that came from brokenness, Marlon. And you that man that came from that insight came from like I'm like, do I need to really become more religious? Because I don't know what it means to be human.
That's right, man.
And it was in exploring my humanity that Jesus made more sense. That the whole thing made more sense. So anyway, so man, that's just I love the phenomenal way. One of the new ways you're doing that, by the way, and this will be the last thing we talk about, the yoga piece. Tell us about how you got into that.
Yeah.
And then talk about that and what that means for what it means, how that's teaching you what it means to be fully human.
Oh man, and thank you so much for letting me talk about yoga. And for those of you out there who are so Christian that yoga scares you, let's just call it Christian stretching with breath.
That we have to do that.
Yeah, blessed be. So one of the subjects of the 16 was Dan Houston. Of Folklore Films was Dan Houston. And Dan Houston took yoga into prisons. Now, anthropology comes from two words, anthropo, meaning speaking of human, and ology, meaning the study of humanity. The way that anthropologists practice is through participant observation, which means that they not only observe the way that other social scientists, like sociologists do, they also participate. They learn the dances. They become connected to the community. They learn the language. They cut their hair the way that people cut their hair. In fact, Jesus was the very first cultural anthropologist. God was the divine dean on high who sent him into a space that was kind of foreign to him. And he learned our languages. He felt our pain. He felt our challenges. He was the very first participant observer who went into a foreign context to bring about awareness and transformation. But anyway, but before I record any of my documentaries, I do life with the subjects. I just hang out with them. You know what I'm saying? So I went to his yoga class before I shot the film about yoga, and I practiced in the front of the room because I didn't want women to think I was looking at their booties in the back of the classroom. Little did I know that the people who practiced on the front row were accelerated practitioners and teachers. And so I spent like 3 months every day practicing yoga on the front row with people who would hug each other as if they had known each other forever and would kiss each other on the cheek as if they would never see each other again. And I said, they have something there. In fact, during the same time, I was doing, I won't say where, but I was doing some Christian lecturing for this institution. And at the same time, there was a yoga conference going on. And actually, it was the week that Barack Obama was elected president. So it was already kind of weird energy. And man, all the yogis were frolicking around, laughing, playing, singing, dancing, and all the Christian folk looked constipated.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, there's something there. So anyway, I went rogue, Pastor, and I became a yoga teacher. And when I became a yoga teacher, this is how it empowered my anthropological practice. I recognized that as a participant observer, to see people breathe and move in rhythm with that breath and in choreography with the postures that this thousands of year old practice cultivates, I could learn just as much as an observer, as an anthropologist, by teaching a yoga class as I could by having and holding an interview, because the body speaks with more clarity sometimes than human language, right? The language of the body, I could see it. I could see that's how I knew shoulders were, you know what I mean? I knew it. That's number one. Here's the joint right here. Here's the joint, I'm telling you. And by joint, I mean like a Spike Lee joint, not like a Cheech Chong joint. Here it is. The vestiges of slavery have been woven into the fabric of what it means to be Black. Slavery and Black have become synonymous to the point to it. You better not hear no white person even say the word slave. You're like, well, what, you know, because the vestiges of slavery have been saturated into our consciousness, which is why, you know, people always complain about Black people not taking care of their community. Well, we've been taught that we are property, not that we have it.
That's right.
We've been taught that we belong to somebody else, not that we can take ownership of our own stuff. Pastor Johnson, for the first time in my life, I understood human privilege, also known as white privilege, but it's really human privilege, made synonymous with white privilege. Yeah. The privilege of being free.
Yes.
And for Black people, we believe that free is synonymous with freedom, which is synonymous with a fight. You know what I mean? We freedom fighters. Yeah. But I'm talking about freedom with no fight, is what I experienced on my yoga mat. It's challenging, it's hard, but through the integration of mind, body, and spirit, which is what the word yoga means. It means the weaving together of mind, body, and spirit as an offering to God. I recognized my own liberation. It became more than a rubber mat. It became the true emancipation proclamation for my soul. Wow. When my mind got connected to my body, that got connected to my soul. Really, it was a remembering, a realignment of an ancient space that my body, that my culture had not known. And if eternity is forever, we are connected to the past and the future as we speak. In fact, right now, if forever is forever, and it's a continuum of past, present, and future, we are not only celebrating and honoring our ancestors right now in the midst of Black History Month, we are also being honored by our offspring too as ancestors right now in the continuum of eternal life. Like there is somebody whose name you'll never know, whose face you'll never see, that is your offspring, that needs you to speak to them as an ancestral witness to their good. And I found that on my mat. I found a way to time travel. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Mostly to the present, with the belief that only when we are fully present do we have full access to our potential. You can't be who you are from the future. You can't be who you are from the past. You know, the Bible says a double-minded woman, man, boy, child is unstable in all of his or her
all their ways.
You can't be in that. You can't have your hands in the past and your feet in the present and expect to be upright.
Marlon, so because I want to make sure we get that. You can't be only if you're fully present in the moment.
Will you have access to your full potential as a human? Your full potential is in the moment. It's nowhere else. The Bible says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Now. And now happens only now. That now is a then. This now is now. And then that now is the then. This now is now. That now is the then. Now.
Yes. So one final thing. It's 8:27, and I want to let you go. I want to let Kai and Yolanda go as well. But I think you can help.
Kai and Yolanda ain't got no questions.
I'm waiting for them to jump in, man.
They're
enjoying you, man.
But you're answering the questions as you're giving your description. And sometimes you just have to ride the wave.
You're right. You sure right.
You got to be fully present in the moment.
Yeah. Oh, de Baba Raha. De Da raha.
Hey,
don't get me started.
Oh, you better get started. He's been too good. Ain't he been good? Ain't he been good? Ain't he? Oh, no,
you know what? Robert, you ain't gonna have no church. Let me stop because I'm an idiot and I've been over here playing nice.
That's a goddamn shame. You over there playing nice.
Yeah, put the God in front of it. That's right. But Marlon, I got it because I think you can help folks with this. There are people of all ages who have been in church all their lives, have been married all their lives, have children. They got a job making. But if you really talk to them, here's what I discover as a pastor as I dig into people's humanity. Marlon, most people are like, they're looking, they don't know who they are,
I
man.
know, man. I'm like that most days.
I'm trying to
I'm
get
one
them.
of them. Yeah.
But the difference is that you're on the journey, but you're not afraid to. We all like that some days, but some people have some days where they also have the courage to explore, to ask the tough questions.
Yeah.
What would you say to them? I mean, how do they begin? How do they like? Because part of that is the fear that, okay, what if I really start digging into that and I discover that who I really am, means that I'm going to lose everything I have.
Right. Well,
Right.
I mean, I want to respond to your question from 40,000 feet.
Okay.
In terms of the church with the capital C, and then from 4 inches.
Okay.
Church lowercase c, like the temple that we all are individually, you know. From a 40,000 foot. Hey, can I tell you a micro story?
Yeah.
So I was in this small group of ex-pastors turned whatever, that Richard Rohr, who is a writer, a thinker, philosopher,
one of my favorite writers,
convened.
Yes.
Small group of about 16 people. To be honest with you, I didn't want to be there. It was a free ticket to Northern California, and I was like, you know, I'm gonna be able to dip every now and then, and what this white man gonna tell me, you know what I mean? And so, you know, he was talking, and then he said something, man, that really helped me as a member of the capital C from 40,000 feet, from a 45,000 foot view. He said, so many people think that the church is dead. He said, but we have to gain perspective on the larger narrative of the church that's just begun. He said, the church is so new. He said, the church, in terms of human development, is in its infant phase. The church is not dead. It's not like in the last phase of its cyclical life. You know, it's not like an old man that's found dead in his house. You know what I mean? He said it's in its infant phase. And so irritated, because I was like, nah, it's dead. You know what I'm saying? I said, well, what's the stench? I said, what does it stink? He's like, oh. He said, the stench that you smell is not the decay of a dead body. He said, it's the feces that's lost in the baby's diaper.
Wow.
He said, change the diaper is all we need to do.
Wow.
Not dispose of the body. You know? So, man, we got to change the diaper. We walk around acting like that diaper is a part of our skin. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, the church is not dead. It's in its infant phase, and it needs us to change the diaper. That's 40,000 feet. From a 4-inch view,
wow.
Pastor, I have come to understand, and I don't know why I'm getting emotional talking about it. You know, Pastor, I got kicked out of United Methodist Church. You know that.
Yeah,
I was asked to leave.
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, the bishop called me and the district superintendent together and said, "Big boss say you got to go." And I had to leave. And then my best friend was called in to take my job. Days after the Human Resource Committee told me that I would no longer be serving in the and all really behind a misconception about the church. The church is not a building that we should seduce people into. The church is a barbaric commission to go ye into the world and make disciples of all nations. So from a 4-inch view, I had to learn the hard way that we are more barbarians than we are ballerinas. You know? And so and you know, some of you out there like, oh my God, he got kicked. Did he do something wrong? All I did was believe that the church was a people, not a place. And I prioritized the people over the place. And I wasn't raising money for a building fund. I was raising awareness for the transformation of the kingdom of the world through the kingdom of God. and my values just didn't align with the values of the institution I was serving. I had to learn the hard way that the church is not a place, it's a people. And so first begin by taking responsibility for the person of the church that you are, and ways that you have been domesticated by the sensation of transformation. Most churches are more like domesticated zoos, but God is calling us to open the cages and let the people free, and let us roam and seek what we must roam and seek.
Yes.
You know, so
Yes.
yeah, man. We spend too much time, Pastor, trying to manicure these buildings. I was in Nairobi, Kenya, and a father of mine, a Baba of mine, the dude who started the very first nonprofit in Kenya after its independence. He said, son, and his name is Baba Njau. He would 88-year-old man punch you in the chest right before he say something that's about to change your life. Bah, hit me in the chest. And then he said, son, he said, unfortunately, many of the monuments that we build become landmines that don't build us up, they blow us up.
Wow.
He said, it's time for us to take down the monuments and become the movement.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. This has been absolutely amazing, Marlon.
Man, I love y'all so much, and I'm so grateful
I love
for the
you.
work you guys are doing, man. Man, would you guys keep me in your prayers?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I have less sleep than I've had in my entire life, with more of a need for it at my age.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of the work that I'm doing, that I've been wanting to do all of my life, Pastor. When I was in 10th grade, I wanted to do what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And God blessed me to serve as a pastor and as a person who served in the kingdom institution of the church for a long time. I was blessed by that. Yeah. But this is it's a lonely road, and so I covet your prayers.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I am so happy and delighted for you because you're taking a journey that I discovered late that all of us should be taking, and that now I'm trying to switch what ministry means and switch to a different mode. And I talked to Yolanda about this. It's about helping people. The way I describe it is helping people to come alive. The Thelonious Monk story.
Yeah.
Like, what is it like? What were you created to do that when you do it, you don't care what people think? You don't care about trying to impress anybody. You don't care about trying to win anybody's favor, but it makes you come alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you were created for. And to me, that's what Jesus did. And that's what the church should be doing. Not investing in buildings, not creating structures.
No.
But finding creative ways to help people find the thing that makes them come alive.
That's so real. And one technical tool is just the breath. Man, just breathe, guys. Just inhale, breathe in through your nose. Keep your mouth closed, exhale out through your nose. And just the revolutionary act of breathing to just come into your own being. You know, the revolution of the exhale and the inhale. And that's a revolutionary act for God in your own body.
Yeah.
You know, so just breathe, y'all. Just breathe. Just breathe.
So what if Yolanda and I want to do a dinner here in Wichita? What if we want to do what's your name? I mean, I know there are dinners, but it's
called the Ecotone of Story.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's an ecotone of cultures and cognition that come together to grow something together they can't grow on their own. So my thesis is the ecotone. I live in the ecotone, and I invite people to come there with me. The messy, muddy middle spaces.
That is so.
Go ahead, Yolanda. Part of what you did is that you found something. You also built relationships with some amazing chefs who understand that they're not just cooking. They see the work. They see them as a craft, as art, as craft. as building the human spirit. You've connect with some amazing people to help you do those, right?
Yeah, man. Pastor Yolanda, what were you about to say?
This has been freeing. I mean, you've taken us from learning disabilities to unrelentless freedom and just not caring about anything other than breathing.
Just
and being
breathe.
present in the moment.
That's it. That's the first step. It's just to bring awareness to your breath. That alone is a revolutionary act, technically.
It's the difference between life and death.
It the difference, ain't it? Hold your breath. You'll learn.
But I think if we had more conversations and experiences like this, we wouldn't have the suicides of young men.
Oh, don't even mention it. You know you're right. You know you're right. You know you're right. You know, and if most of us would allow the word to become flesh too, you know, Pastor, at one point in my experience as a local pastor, the church, the Awakenings movement, every 6 months we did an anthropological study to determine what we would become.
Yeah.
So we were a restaurant, we were a musical conservatory, we were an art gallery. We've been everything just to meet the crucial human needs of the third world community where we were at one point. And I remember when I transitioned to take on the restaurant full time as the manager, a couple of we lost 92% of our congregation when I did that. And most people said, we want you to get in the pulpit and inspire us, to motivate us. You are our motivational speaker. And I thought to myself, you know what? Jesus was not just a motivational speaker. He was a motivation who speaks. When people try to be motivational speakers before they have anything to speak about that motivates people. Like, do something to speak about. And then, so I think that's another thing, Pastor Yolanda, like, we need to be more intentional, certainly with our words and to share spaces for those words, but also every word of good intention that we have in our bodies, manifest it in the form of a practice. Breathe, or be about the business of starting your business. Do it.
So I want to go back to where Pastor Johnson was going. I think he was trying to bring you here, but when will you do your next dinner? Is that in the works?
Yep, my next dinner is going to be on the 24th in Houston, Texas, at Lucille's, and then I have another one in Miami, and then another one in Trenton, New Jersey, another one in Princeton, New Jersey, and then but no, man, Bill, certainly you can commission me to come do a dinner party, man, and let's bring together some cool people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it works best with people who don't know each other.
A cool anthropologist.
You said what?
I have a vision of what an anthropologist looks like. How they
well, you know what? It would really be great at some point, and it's 8:42. It would really be great at some point if we brought together Marlon and you may have already met her, Dr. Shauna Masheko.
Nuh-uh.
She's Houstonian, was with us there in the Texas conference and was connected with some Methodist churches. She knows you. You all met somewhere along the way. You may not remember her, but she's a cultural anthropologist. She's a musicologist. She's a
yeah. She's an ethnomusicologist.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we met at Princeton.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah, she's brilliant.
So I want to get the two of you all in a conversation, and we can talk about them. It'll have to be something different than just an hour on a Wednesday night. Something that's more expansive, something we even charge people to participate in. We'll bring the two of you all together for an amazing conversation. Marlon, this has been absolutely amazing. I appreciate you so much. I know you're super busy.
Pray for him, please.
Yes, right now, please.
Yes. So, Father God, we thank you for Marlon, and I thank you for the amazing journey he's on. I thank you that he has surrendered to your power in such a way that he's unafraid and unashamed to be who you've created him to be. We pray for even greater courage, even greater creativity, and then we pray for even greater community
Yes, God.
Around him and with him are people who are living that same kind of adventure.
Man.
Thank you for all that you are through us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Man, good to see you. So hopefully I'll get there before you cut out.
Yeah, I have another year here.
Okay.
And then I'll be going to Nairobi. And pray for me because, you know, I may not come back, Pastor. It's good out there, but I'm telling you now, yeah. Me and my Phoenix may be spending summers with me in Nairobi.
Wow. She's amazing, by the way.
Man, her EQ is so high. She could walk into a room, she knows who's hurt.
You know what? It shows up in her pictures. That shows, I can see, yes, absolutely. She's so emotionally balanced and emotionally tuned into things, and she's not just that she's balanced. She's happy and balanced. You can tell that. We have a kid here, the son of our music leader, who's the same way. He's just
really.
Oh, let me tell you what's amazing about Malachi. Malachi was born into the COVID world.
Wow.
So Linda was the one that pointed this out, Marlon. Linda says that when she speaks to him, he studies her eyes.
Wow.
Because he can't see her mouth moving. He knows what she's saying by her reading her eyes. Isn't that talk about people like the human spirit and how we're learning and growing.
Adapting. Yeah.
Linda says that when she talks to him, mouth covered. So we would watch the mouth.
Wow.
She says that he's staring directly into her eyes.
We have no idea how much.
We have no idea. We have no idea. We have no idea.
I love y'all. Thank you so much for the prayer and the conversation, even though I feel like I was rambling.
No. This was amazing. As a matter of fact, the numbers were going up. Although we were saying we got to cut off, the numbers were going. The longer we talked, the more the numbers went up. So thank you, man. God bless. Tell everyone your way and your family, everybody to wish me hello. All
right, guys. Peace. It's nice to meet you guys. Y'all be cool.
All right.
Y'all got a great boss, man. I'm telling you right now. If you call yourself a boss, who knows whatever you call yourself. You know, Pastor John's be making stuff up, be making all them words.
You lost me there. I was on your page, and then you lost me.
No, man. Pastor Johnson is a blessing. Pastor Johnson opened the door for me to imagine how I could use my artistic skill set to serve in ministry. Yep.
He's fair.
All right.
It's good to see you, man.
All right. Bye-bye, y'all.
Yolanda, you want to do a quick announcement about the blood drive on tomorrow, please?
February 10th
which is tomorrow.
Hold on, let me put my Nana glasses on. I believe it's 11 to 3. Call the church tomorrow if you're interested. As we've mentioned so many times before, the Red Cross is experiencing an all-time low in their blood supply. So as we know, as African-American people, we have unique ailments that only we can supply blood for. So we're inviting and we're requesting and encouraging you to come to St. Mark. If you would like to schedule a particular time for your blood donation, you can call 316-681-2214 and Kimberly Bowie will get you a slot so you can get in and get out and use this as one of your 100 ways to serve this month. You know, doesn't have to be actually on Sunday or in the body of the church. This will be an amazing way for you to give back to the body of Christ.
And that's tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And so, folks, as Yolanda said, please, it's African Americans who need the blood the most. So please, if you get a chance, come and donate. God bless you. Kai, thank you so much, brother. We're praying for you. Y'all pray for Kai as he continues to work full time, does work in diversity and inclusion, but also taking the journey, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Those 3 words, whatever order they come in, whatever. And also doing his theological studies, and we're praying for him. God bless you all. Thank y'all for hanging on. It's almost 9 o'clock, and folks are still watching. God bless you. Have a wonderful night. Come by and donate blood tomorrow, and then look forward to another amazing worship experience on Sunday, 10 a.m. We're allowing up to 300 people in the building. Wear a mask. Sit where you're seated. temperature checked at the door and come in and worship with us.
The experience online has nothing on the experience in person.
God bless you all. Good night.